Hello and welcome to Reykjavík Newscast. My name is Josie Anne. I'm a journalist with the Reykjavík Grapevine, and today we're taking you somewhere really exciting. We're on our way to Viðey, which is an island. It's 5 kilometres or about 3 miles off the coast of Reykjavík, and it's just a short ferry ride to get there. Here it is over here. We're going to tell you lots of information all about Viðey when we get there, as well as, of course, go over the news. But first of all, just before we get there, please remember our shop. We're still having our summer sale on cosmetics in shop.grapevine.is. Links are in the description. In particular, I recommend Fisher's perfume. It's what I wear. It's so beautiful. And if you're ever in Reykjavík as well, we recommend checking out their store. It's really cool. But have a look online, check out our sale, and let's go and explore Viðey. So here we are on Viðey. Like I said, this is a very small island, not very far from Reykjavík. You can see the city behind me. We're about 5 kilometres or 3 miles from the centre of Reykjavík, and the ferry ride only takes, it's like less than 10 minutes, maybe about 7 minutes or something. And the ferries are operated by Elding, actually, who are a whale watching company. So we'll put their details in the description as well if you're wanting to come and check out Viðey for yourself. But Viðey was first inhabited soon after settlement, around 900 AD. And there's evidence of people living here for many years. The first major one being a monastery that was founded here in 1225 by Thorvaldur Gizurarson. I've definitely got that wrong, but you get the idea. The monastery survived here for a few hundred years until the Reformation in 1539, when it was raided by Danish soldiers. And the next kind of significant figure who's connected with Viðey is Skúli Magnússon. He was a really important Icelandic politician, and he's known as the father of Reykjavík. And this is because he sparked the kind of industrialization, or like the urban development of Reykjavík, which was essentially, you know, a handful of cottages, basically. There was not really an urban centre. He made Viðey his official residence. He built Viðeyjarstofa, which we're heading towards now. And this was completed in 1755. And the reason I should say as well that he's kind of thought of as this father of Reykjavík, is because he started these woolen, like hand knitting, or not hand knitting, but like knitting factory kind of things. And that employed loads of people and provided a way for the city to be built up. So he's also buried on Viðey. He died here in 1794 and is buried at the church that he himself had built here. So he was a kind of really important figure in Viðey's history. But it remained inhabited until the 1950s, after which it was abandoned. There was a series of farms and fishing stations here, and then after it was uninhabited, the buildings here passed into they were put into ownership of the National Museum, which is where we were the other day, and then ultimately they were presented by the Icelandic state to the city of Reykjavík, who've restored them and made them into a visitor attraction. So it's in a really incredible place. It's my first time here. I'm really excited. I've been pushing to come and do this trip here for a while. And one of the things about it that's really special is we're obviously just outside this big industrial city, and it feels like we're right in the middle of the countryside. So we're getting off the boat there. You could see in the water these huge sea urchins and mussels, and there's fulmars or kittiwakes. Not entirely sure of the difference, not a great bird watcher, but a lot of wildlife. And you can see how this would have been a great place for farming as well. But now, of course, it's just a great place for families to have a day out and have a picnic and see this really amazing historical kind of living museum kind of thing. But of course, it wouldn't be Newscast if we didn't talk about the news. But I think while we're here, we should make the most of it. And I really want to check out what this is. So let's go to the news, but let's go up here first. That was easy. An absolutely astounding view. Anyway, no more distractions, onto the news. And the first thing in the news is gender equality, which is something that you might know about in terms of Iceland. It's something that's kind of well known that Iceland has a good reputation for. But officially, Iceland has topped the Gender Equality Index again for the 13th year in a row. This is a report made by the World Economic Forum, or WEF, and it looks at gender equality in 146 countries. It's based on 14 different benchmarks, and these include very different things such as healthcare, education, economic and workplace opportunities, and participation in politics. And that actually is one of the most significant ones for Iceland. Iceland is not unique in the Nordic nations for this. There are 4 other Nordic countries in the top 5 most gender equal countries in the world, according to the WF. Following Iceland are Finland and Norway, with Sweden coming 5th, and 4th on the list is New Zealand, so the other side of the world. But the WEF is very positive about the gender equality situation in Iceland, views it very favourably. It says that, according to its recent report, that Iceland has achieved over 90% gender equality, though the rate has fluctuated slightly over the years. Iceland's strong showing is partly explained by the high level of female engagement in politics. And you might have heard about, actually, Iceland made worldwide news after the general elections last September, I think they were. And it was because it was the first time that there were more women MPs in any parliament in the world than men. Unfortunately, this was very quickly reversed. If you remember the situation with the voting scandal that took place. Should we go this way, Art? Yeah? Okay. But there is still a lot of women in politics compared to a lot of other countries. So that is one of the reasons why Iceland clinched this first place. Iceland's political gender imbalance is still large, it notes, but no other country has proportionally more female parliamentarians and political leaders. This report, like I said, it's fluctuated over the years, how Iceland has done, although it has maintained a top spot for 13 years. And one of the things that the report noted about Iceland... Oh, Art wants me to go over here. Okay. Just tromp through some long grass. One of the things that the report noted, not just about Iceland, but a worldwide trend, is that gender inequality had been massively affected by the pandemic. And this is due to a number of factors, including women doing the bulk of the childcare at home and things like this. So that was noted in the previous year's report, but they have said in this year that it's improved more generally. According to the report's calculations, however, and this is the depressing part, it will take 132 years to achieve worldwide gender equality at the current rate of progress. So that's obviously absolutely not good enough. And as much as Iceland has this reputation, and it's a well-deserved reputation for being a much more gender equal country. And there's historically there's been amazing progress made here with the women's strikes, and like the report notes, women in politics. There's still a lot more work to be done, both in Iceland and worldwide. So let's see if we can contribute, all of us, to make sure that it doesn't actually take 132 years, because that would be pretty depressing. On to some other news though, and this is something that again is not particularly surprising, although a little bit frustrating. And this is Íslandsbanki. So you'll remember that Valur talked about the sale of Íslandsbanki a few months ago. This is a bank that had been bailed out by the state, essentially, or bought by the state. It's complicated, there's this whole reputation that Iceland didn't jail its bankers, and this is post-financial crash stuff. But basically a huge proportion of this bank was owned by the Icelandic government, and they decided to sell it off. And the whole thing was a fiasco. I mean, there was a lot of secrecy around it. The list of the people who were allowed to buy shares, because it wasn't just anyone who was allowed to buy shares in the bank, was not made public until after the sale went through. And then it turned out there was a lot of names on that list that really were concerning to be there, including the finance minister's father. It just all was quite fishy and quite uncomfortable, and it smacked of some of the similar themes that got us into the financial mess of the economic collapse of 2008 in the first place. Now, as a result of this, there was a report that was due to happen to explain what was going on. And unfortunately, I'm sad to announce that the state auditor's report into the sale of state-owned shares in Íslandsbanki will not be ready until the first half of August. The report was originally expected in June, but was subsequently pushed back to late July. Now it's due in August. I think, again, at the time when Valur was talking about this, there was a lot of scepticism. A lot of these reports are not ready at the time that they say they're going to be. And in the grand scheme of things, is it important? Well, I think so, personally. There's not much else to say here. We can't comment on what's in this report without seeing it, and it will be very interesting to see what it ultimately says. But again, this continual lack of delivery and lack of keeping promises essentially erodes trust in political systems, and that's very dangerous. We've been here before in Iceland, and it resulted in big riots and a big disruption in the system. So it's not something that we want to keep seeing as this erosion of public trust. So we'll let you know, of course, as soon as we hear about the report and what it says. But in the meantime, there is indeed a delay. Now, we're trying to work out to go somewhere, and we're trying to work out where it is. Art's giving me directions behind the camera. Not up here, you don't think? Go this way. Okay, we're going to try this way. We're trying to find somewhere in particular for you, to show you. But while we do that, something that is a little bit more positive in terms of political movements is the housing situation. Now, if you listen to our podcast, the Icelandic Roundup, you'll have heard Valur and I interview the chair of the Renters Association. He came on the podcast a few months ago now, and I believe the video is actually available to the public now. Mostly our podcast videos are just available to members, but some of them we make live after the fact. And so if you do follow that and you've listened to the podcast, then you'll know that there's a housing crisis in Iceland right now, as there is in many countries in the world. But some movement on this has been that 35,000 apartments are to be built in a 10-year housing plan that's part of an agreement between state and municipal authorities. So this is specifically in Reykjavík that these apartments and houses will be built. There's a goal of building 4,000 units a year for the first 5 years. And of these new units, 30% of them are to be affordable housing and 5% are to be set aside as social housing. So that is very positive news. Again, it's something that, I would like to see the details on what makes that affordable housing and by what parameters are they judging that. But it's really exciting to hear that at least it's something that they're setting to tackle. So Sigurður Ingi Jóhannsson. Sigurður Ingi Jóhannsson. I knew I could do that better. He's the Minister of Infrastructure. We've talked about him before on the newscast, on the podcast. He is a slightly controversial figure of late, but he is the Minister for Infrastructure, and he stated that a major goal of the new agreement is to protect residents from the large fluctuations that have characterised the last few years of the housing market, especially when it comes to impacting first-time buyers who are having difficulty entering the market because of the ballooning prices. And it's something that you can really feel here in Reykjavík at the moment. If you are a renter or if you're looking to buy, housing prices and housing availability in general has just been really crazy the last few months, and the price of an average rental, I feel, has increased dramatically post-COVID, with people coming back, tourism, Airbnb, people coming back to work. It's just gone really quite hectic. So there's clearly a problem here and a situation that needs dealt with, and so I think that this is a really positive first step, and again, hopefully they just can deliver on it, and that's the main thing. So I've got one last piece of news, and then we want to show you another place on the island before we go. And this is quite a light piece of news. Well, kind of. It's animal related, which is always a little bit nicer, but it's a bit sad as well. And this is the fact that there are loads of cats that need homes right now, which breaks my heart. I love cats. But basically, there are 200 currently in the care of, and I don't know if this is Viðey or Viðey. I'm not sure if it's a hard L or not. And this is the Cat Protection Society, basically. So they have 200 cats in their care right now, including litters of kittens. And they are basically desperate for homes for them, or foster homes as well, I believe. But ultimately permanent homes for these cats. Unfortunately, there is a sad story behind it. A representative from the Cat Protection Society believes that most of these cats were adopted during the pandemic, when people were spending more time at home and wanted company, but that they have now been given up to the shelter or put down, or even they're seeing cases where cats have been abandoned in the Highlands, in the middle of nowhere, by owners who are essentially suddenly wanting to go on holiday and can't find care for them or don't want the responsibility anymore. It's really hard for me to even imagine that happening, because I just think if you've got a cat, if you've got an animal, if you have a pet, then you're so bonded to it, you want to take care of it. The idea of driving it off into the middle of nowhere and dumping it is abhorrent to me. But, I think that often people have complicated life situations, and things happen. But if you're here and you want to adopt a cat, then definitely now's the time. Anyway, this is the place, or we're near to the place that I wanted to show you. This is the site of the Imagine Peace Tower, and it's a piece of work conceived by Yoko Ono, and it was made in memorial for her husband, John Lennon. This is it here. I've never seen it close up, but I know what it looks like, because essentially what it looks like in the winter and at night is it's a huge beam of light that they shoot into the sky from here. It's they turn it on several times throughout the winter, quite a lot in December, I think, also in March, and it's on until midnight, I think, during the time that it's on. It's really beautiful. You can see it from all over the city. It's really distinctive. And this is the source of it here. And all over here, I was reading about this before, it says Imagine Peace in multiple languages all over So it's quite a iconic part of the Reykjavík skyline, but one that it's actually not located in Reykjavík, which is really interesting. It says here, I dedicate this light tower to John Lennon. My love for you is forever. Yoko Ono, October 9th, 2007. So that's really beautiful. I can't sing the song because we'll get a copyright strike. But it's a really beautiful memorial to an important person and an important sentiment. Imagine peace. Anyway, that's everything for us from Viðey. It's an astonishing place. I'm so glad to have made it here. I really recommend that if you're visiting, it only takes, like I said, 10 minutes to get here. Come out. The weather today is very mixed, so we've had rain and sun, and yet there's still loads of Icelandic families here come for a picnic. Don't forget our shop, shop.grapevine.is. The link for that is in the description, and also if you're ever wondering how things are spelled, more information about the news, it's always in the description, put in lots of detail there. So if you're looking for further info, just click down below and you'll find everything you need to know. That's us for this week. We'll be back with you next week from somewhere. Who knows where? See you later.